What's going on, guys? I'm Kof from KofSports.com, and today I'm here to answer your question, how to bet on sports. So you're getting into sports betting, and believe it or not, there are thousands of people just like you across the country getting into sports betting as the legalization continues to spread across the United States. So luckily for you, I'm here with a complete sports betting 101 guide. I'm going to talk about different topics, including but not limited to the different types of bets you can make, how and where you can place bets. We'll review a few different sports books. We'll explain how to read the betting lines and Vegas odds. Talk about one of the most important things, which is bankroll management. We'll talk about some of the common mistakes that 90% of sports bettors make, which usually lead you down the wrong path. And then we'll close it out with some general betting advice and strategy. So we'll handle this in different chapters. The first chapter is the different type of sports bets that you can make, and it's coming right up. Let's start off by acknowledging that there are so many different types of bets that a person can make. Most notably, around the Super Bowl every year, you hear about these crazy bets where people are betting on what a player will do leading up to the game, or the color of the Gatorade that's dumped on the coach's head after the game. There are just so many different options of things that you can bet on. With the legalization of sports betting, more and more sports books are opening up, and they are just offering anything. Pretty much anything that you can think of, you can bet on. So it's a lot of fun, but it's very important that you understand the different types of sports bets and how they work before you start throwing money around. So that's what we're here for today. We are going to talk about the different type of sports bets and explain how each of them work. First up are money line bets. So it's called a money line bet, and these are the most simple bets that you can make. You are betting on a team to win the game outright. There are no point spreads. You don't need a team to win by a certain amount of points. You just need that team to win the game. So with that said, the odds are adjusted. So if you run into a big favorite, you're going to have to risk more to win what you're looking to win than if you bet on an underdog. That if you take an underdog, you're betting less for more of a return. It's just, that's the way it works. Those are the odds. They base it on the likelihood of the outcome of the game. So let's say, for example, we have a baseball game. So you have the New York Yankees playing against the Toronto Blue Jays. The Yankees are going to have Garrett Cole pitching, and the Blue Jays are going to have Hyun-Jin Ryu. Okay? Yankees are obviously a much better team than the Blue Jays, so the odds are going to be adjusted in the Blue Jays' favor. So if you bet on the Yankees in that game, let's say the odds will be minus 200. We'll talk about how to read these odds in a minute. You will have to risk 2 to win 1. So when you go on the sports books, you will see the favorite will have a minus sign in front of the number, and an underdog will have a plus sign in front of the number. There's a very easy way to calculate the odds on this, but we'll talk about how to read these odds, and then I'll give you the formula. So we'll start off. If you're betting on the Yankees, they're a minus 200 favorite on the money line. That means you have to risk 2 to win 1. So if you risk $200 and the Yankees win, you'll profit $100 for a total return of $300. So you go up to the sports book, you go online, place a bet, $200 on the Yankees, minus 200 favorite on the money line. They win, you'll return $300. If you go to the sports book, you go up with your ticket, cash it in, take $300 cash. Now, on the flip side, if you take the Blue Jays in this matchup, then you're looking at, say, plus 175. You'll see in front of their odds. So you put $100 down on the Blue Jays in the same matchup, you're going to profit $175 if they win. So that's because it's less likely that they're going to beat the Yankees because the Yankees are the better team. But, hey, we all know sports. Sometimes these things happen. So say you're a Blue Jays fan. You want to take your team. They're plus 175 on the money line. You risk $100. Go to the sports book. Here's $100. Blue Jays money line. Blue Jays win that matchup, you are returning $275 for a $175 profit. So that's the easy way. I know it can sound a little complicated, but if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me directly on Twitter or Instagram. I love to engage with sports bettors and share my knowledge that I've gained over the years. At Cove Sports, reach out anytime or email me at kof@covesports.com. And now if, say, you're building a spreadsheet to track your wins and losses, here is how you calculate the formula. I'll add it in the description below, but it is equals 100 divided by parentheses -1 times minus 200 divided by 100. So that would be if you were taking the minus 200 favorite. If you get over to covesports.com, we do have the article up, and it's easier to understand if you're looking at it in writing. So that's the best I can explain it. It's much easier to just think of it, like I said, if you see a team with a minus in front of their name, you know you have to risk that much to win 100. So if it's minus 200, you have to risk 200 to win 100. If they're minus 110, you have to risk 110 to win 100. So that's how it works. Those are money line bets. Up next, bets against the spread. Bets against the spread. This is referring to a point spread where the odds makers are looking at the matchup and deciding how many points the favorite is worth compared to the team that they're playing. So let's take a look back at Super Bowl 54 between the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. The Chiefs were favored by 1.5 points. So similar to the money line bets that we just talked about, the favorite will have a minus in front of their number on a sports book if you're looking at a sports book or the odds, and the underdog will have a plus sign in front of it. So for this matchup, with the Chiefs favored by 1.5, if you were looking at a sports book, you would see Kansas City Chiefs minus 1.5. That means that they have to win by 2 or more points to cover that spread. On the flip side, the San Francisco 49ers were plus 1.5. So if they come within 1 point, they cover the spread. Basically, you just need the team to cover that point total one way or the other. So if you're taking the favorite, you need the favorite to win by that certain point total. And if you're taking the underdog, you need them to come within, even if they lose, they need to come within that certain amount of points. So that's a pretty basic concept. The Super Bowl is a good example. Chiefs were favored by 1.5, so they had to win by 2 or more to cover that spread. They ended up winning 31-20, so they covered the spread. Everyone who bet on the Chiefs to cover the spread in that game won their bets. Everyone who bet on the 49ers to cover the 1.5 did not win their bets, so sorry. Maybe get them next year. But that's really the easiest way to explain bets against the spread. Another popular type of bet is an over-under bet. Pretty simple concept, but there's a point total, and you are betting that there will be more or less points. So if you're betting more points, you're taking the over. If you're taking less points, you're taking the under. There are different varieties of an over-under bet. So a standard over-under bet includes the point total for both teams combined at the end of the game, but you can also bet on individual team over-unders. So there's a point total for that team, and you're either taking the over or the under. For this one, let's take a look back at Game 7 from the Stanley Cup Finals last year. The over-under for that game was 5.5 between the St. Louis Blues and Boston Bruins. So if they combined for more than 5.5 goals, so 6 goals or more, the over would win. If they combined for less than 5.5 goals, then the under would win. The final score in that game was 4-1, so anyone who bet on the under in that game won their bet. Now, for over-under bets and spread bets, like we just talked about, didn't talk about what happens. Say the total for that hockey game was 5. So the over-under is 5. And say the Blues won 3-2, so 5 total goals. What happens? It's not over, it's not under, it's a push. So the bet doesn't count and you'll get your money back. So that's how that works. And then referring back to the spread bets that we just talked about, if a football team is favored by 7 and they win by 7, the bet doesn't count. You just get your money back. It's called the push. It's just the way it works. It's much easier when there's a half a point on the end, because then you know either way you're either going to win or you're going to lose. That's just the way that all works. But those are over-unders. Money lines, bets against the spread, and over-unders are the 3 most common types of bets. But now let's get into a few different types of bets. So if you've ever heard of a parlay, these are the ones that you can have a low risk and very high reward. It's a combination of multiple bets, either a money line, a bet against the spread, or an over-under. Although some sports books will not allow you to add an over-under and bet against the spread for the same game. But a parlay, you need 2 or more selections, and the more selections that you add to this bet, the higher your payout is going to be. But the way a parlay works is you need every single selection in your parlay to hit. So let's take a look at an example from an NFL Sunday. So let's say this. You're going to take a 3-team parlay of Chiefs money line, Saints money line, and Patriots money line. Basically, to sum that up, for you to win your bet, you need the Chiefs to win, the Saints to win, the Patriots to win. If all 3 win, then you'll win your bet. If the Chiefs and Saints win, but the Patriots lose, then the whole bet is a loss. So that's the way it works, but you can build up 15-team parlays with different types. You can mix and match money lines, spreads, over-unders on different games. And if you build up the odds with a couple underdogs on an NFL Sunday and you take a pick in every single game, you could have a payout where you're risking just $1 with a payout over $100,000. The reason for that is because it's not very likely that it's going to happen, but every so often you see stuff all over social media with people who put $1 down and won $300,000 on a 15-team college football over-under parlay. That's the way it works. You need every single selection in that bet to win for you to win the bet, and the more that you add, the higher the payout's going to be. I always say if you're trying to profit consistently, to take 2 to 3 team parlays, because those are much more likely to hit and they give a little boost on the odds rather than taking something like a 10-team parlay. But some bettors who are just playing for the fun of it, they're not really playing to consistently profit long term. They just want to, hey, NFL Sunday, I want to throw $10 in on basically a lottery ticket parlay. Put $10 down to have a chance to win $1 million. Hey, have at it. Good luck hitting 15 different combinations. But people have done it before. It's possible. Like Kevin Garnett once said, anything is possible. So if that's something that sounds good to you, a lot of bettors have a lot of fun with parlays, chasing parlays. But in my experience with big parlays, it seems like people always miss by 1 game. Comes down to the last game. That's just the way it is. And sometimes the reason for that is because when you're putting your parlay bets together, you get greedy and you add, I was going to just take the money line for this team, so I just need them to win. But then you want to boost the odds up for a bigger payout. So instead of taking a team to win, you take them to win by more than 6. And then they win by 5, and then your whole parlay is a loss just because of that 1 point. So it can be frustrating, but it can be rewarding if you do your research and you put together high percentage parlays. Like I said, 2 to 3 team parlays, I would say, are the best, but they won't give you the type of payouts that you would get if you put together a 15-team parlay on an NFL Sunday. So next up are teaser bets. So it's a teaser for a reason. The way a teaser bet works is it's kind of like a parlay where you have to take 2 or more selections. You're combining spread bets or over-under bets, and a teaser allows you to move the point total by a certain amount of points depending on the sport. So you can only do teasers in football and basketball. You can't do a teaser for hockey and baseball. But let's take a look at an example from NFL teaser. So let's see here. Put together two teams. So let's say the Chiefs are favored by 9.5. So if you were looking on a sports book, you would see minus 9.5. And the Bears are 3.5 point underdogs. So if you're looking at a sports book, you're looking at the odds, you would see plus 3.5 for the Bears. So in a teaser bet, if you were going to move the point totals, in football, the standard is 6 points. So you move it 6 points in your favor. So the Chiefs are favored by 9.5. You would move it back in your favor 6 points. So they would then be favored by 3.5. For the Bears, they're 3.5 point underdogs. So you would move it 6 points in your favor the other way. So then they would now be 9.5 point underdogs for this teaser. Now, for this two-team teaser to hit, you would need the Chiefs to cover that new spread of 3.5, so they'd have to win by 4 or more, and then the Bears would have to come within 9 to cover that new spread total of 9.5. That's just the way teasers work. They allow you to move the spreads. You can add as many teams as you want, kind of like a parlay. I think every sports book will have a different maximum amount of teams that you can put, but I would say the standard across the industry are 12 to 15 teams. The odds build up kind of like a parlay, but I like to stick to two-team teasers. If you take two favorites that are 6 point favorites on an NFL Sunday and you get them both at a pick'em, which is the term that people use when they talk about just win the game. So if you have two teams, let's say last year, two of the best teams in the league would be the Chiefs and the 49ers, the two teams that ended up in the Super Bowl. If you had them on an NFL Sunday, both of them are favored by 6. You put them in a teaser. They both need to just win the game because you move the point total in your favor, 6 points. So it'd be Chiefs 0, just win the game. 49ers 0, just win the game. And the odds would be just about even money. So that's the way teaser bets work. If you do it in basketball, you can move it 4 points. That's the standard. 6 points is the standard for football. So those are teaser bets. Player props are bets that you make on an individual player's performance or any other random thing that a sportsbook comes up with. I've seen bets where you can bet on if a football player is going to come out wearing long sleeves or short sleeves under his jersey. What color will his mouthpiece be? Will he be wearing a shield on his helmet today? All different types of bets. Basketball, will so-and-so come out with a wristband? Will they have a headband on? Will LeBron James wear a headband? That's been a player prop bet before. But there's all different kinds. Most of the time, you're going to see the prop bets being based on the performance of an individual player. So, an example, in the Super Bowl this last year with the Chiefs, will Travis Kelce score a touchdown? Yes or no? You either bet yes or no. If he scores a touchdown, you win the bet. If he doesn't, you lose the bet. Pretty self-explanatory. Another thing would be in basketball. Let's say the Warriors are playing. Steph Curry, total points, over under 32.5 points. So you're betting on Curry to go out. If you take the over, you need him to score more than 32 points. If you bet on the under, you need him to score less than 32 points. So there's endless possibilities for player props. They're gaining popularity because a lot of people like to bet on their individual favorite player. Everyone's got a different taste, different sports. But if you look on different sports books across the industry, you will find some crazy player props, and there can be good value in them. You can even get a certain player prop. There was one, will Pat Mahomes win the MVP for the Super Bowl? Yes, that was easy money. Came up late, but it ended up hitting. That was one of our picks on cosports.com. But Player props are fun. If a player is playing for a team that's not that good, but you like the player, you can bet on their performance, like NBA Christmas Day countdown. You got games all day long. If you want to bet on those games, but you're not confident in either team, take a player prop, cheer for that player. Next up are future bets. So a future bet is exactly what it sounds like. You're betting on something to happen in the future. The most popular type of futures bet is to bet on a team to win the championship. So you can bet on a team to win the championship, let's say NFL. Before the season starts, you can take a team to win the Super Bowl. You can place a futures bet in the middle of the season. I think this team will win the Super Bowl. So whatever you put down. Right now, let's take a look. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right now, if you bet on them to win the Super Bowl next year, it's a futures bet plus 1,200 odds. So if you put $100 down and they win the Super Bowl, you would profit $1,200. So futures bets can be taken at any point. It's just looking out into the future. Most of the time, you can only bet on the upcoming year in sports. So you can't be like, oh, I want to take the Chicago Bears to win the Super Bowl in 2029. You are just looking ahead to the very next championship for whatever sport you're betting on. But there are other types of bets. You can bet on a team to win their division. You can bet on a team if they will or won't make the playoffs. You can bet on specific player performances for future bets. How many touchdown passes will Russell Wilson throw? How many home runs will Aaron Judge hit? Just so many different things that are out there now. Even on July 4th, when they have the hot dog eating contest, you can bet who will win the hot dog eating contest for 2020, if it even happens. We'll see. But that's just another example of future bets. Most sports books are offering these because so many people are taking them. A good example of a recent futures bet was last year in college basketball. Someone had put down $1,500 before the season started for Texas Tech to win the championship. That bet would have paid out $300,000. Came down to the final game, and Texas Tech lost 85-77 to Virginia in the championship. So that bettor was very close to a huge turnaround, but that gives a good example of the opportunities that are out there if you place futures bets. Now, obviously, with all bets, the odds are adjusted based on the likelihood of something to happen. But even in the NHL last year, in January, in the middle of the season, a bettor put $100 down on the St. Louis Blues to win the Stanley Cup, and he got paid $100,000 for that bet. It's just ridiculous. They went from last place in January to winning the Stanley Cup in Game 7. So futures bets can be very profitable. Sometimes you look at them like, hey, I'm just taking a chance on it, throw a couple bucks down and see what happens. Other people, as you can see, like someone who put down $1,500 before the season started on Texas Tech to win the championship, they were, a little more intense with their futures bet. But for someone who's just getting started, depending on your bankroll, I would say a futures bet, put $10 down, put $20 down on your team to win the Super Bowl. And hey, you never know what's going to happen. So that's it for the different types of bets that sportsbooks offer. Let's run it back real quick just to run through the different types. Quick summary. Got your money line bets. That's where you're betting on a team to just win the game straight up. Always remember, when you're looking at these odds, you want to base it off of a $100 profit. So if the odds are minus 140 for a favorite, you have to risk $140 to profit 100 for a $240 return. If it's minus 115, you have to risk $115 for a $100 profit, $215 return. Bets against the spread, betting against the point spread. Remember, a favorite will have a minus sign in front of the number. That means that they have to win by that total amount of points. If you're betting on an underdog, they will have a plus sign in front of that number. They need to come within that number of points for you to win your bet. Over-under bets, there's a point total. You're either taking more, which would mean you're taking the over, or you're taking less, which would mean you're taking the under. Parlays. Always remember, good chance to make a lot of money, low risk, high reward. But you need at least 2 selections, 2 or more, and every selection of your parlay needs to hit for you to win that bet. And always remember, don't get greedy. Don't just add a team to stack up the odds. Never get greedy. It's easy to do. A lot of sports bettors do it, and it comes back to haunt them. Teaser bets, that's when you can move the point totals, and you can do that for spreads or over-unders. Football, you're moving the spread 6 points in your favor. That's the standard. Basketball, you're moving the point spread 4 points in your favor. And same goes for over-unders. 6 point in football, 4 points in basketball. Player props, you're betting on different individual player performances, actions, really anything. Will so-and-so come out wearing long sleeves for the game today? Something like that. How many total points will this player do? How many touchdown passes will this player have? Just different bets related to an individual player's performance. Then the future bets, like we just talked about, anything you're betting in the future. So a team to win the championship, a team to win the division, team's total wins for the season, player's performance, will this player win the MVP, how many touchdown passes, how many home runs. Those are futures bets. So that's a quick summary. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, like and subscribe to the channel. Check out covesports.com. Never hesitate to reach out to me. I'm here to share my knowledge with everyone. A lot of people enjoy the interaction that I have with all of my followers, and I make it a point to respond to everybody, so you'll never be left out. And up next, we are going to look at how and where to place a bet. So check that out at covesports.com or look for the next video in the series. Till next time, thanks guys.